the future doctors that pass through our doors. At KDU, future doctors and healthcare personnel learn not only how to treat patients, but how to care for people. Our team of experienced and specialized consultant practitioners also bring this to the table. Teamwork and quality of care are what truly sets us apart. And this is what UHKDU works towards each day. Serving others is our calling. It is our promise to you.
The General Sir John Kothulawala Defence University, founded in the year 1981 as a defence academy, is now one of the eminent defence universities in the region, offering a range of multidisciplinary graduate courses in defence studies and a number of other academic studies. KDU, with its rich history of excellence, assures a high-quality, learner-centered educational experience with its diverse portfolio of academic disciplines, which are globally renowned today, especially as a trendsetter in the local academic sphere. KDU, located in the suburbs of Colombo over a 50-acre expanse of land, is surrounded by a lake amid natural flora and fauna, enriching the premises with a magnificent view, preserving the natural architecture of the university. The university was named in memory of Sir John Kothulawala, the third Prime Minister of Sri Lanka.
I even got selected to the local universities of this state, but I chose KDU mainly because of the disciplinary environment and also the fast admission program of this university.
My father selected this university because of this discipline, because he wanted me to get used to a disciplined culture.
I heard the atmosphere is different. It's very friendly. There's a military side, there's a civilian side, there is a actually wonderful combination going on here.
This esteemed defense university caters to military students as well as to both local and international students through its undergraduate, graduate and professional programs across 9 faculties. Among the student population, KDU has students from the Republic of Maldives, the Kingdom of Bhutan, Nigeria, Rwanda, China, Canada, Australia, the UAE and Vietnam reading for their academic degree programs. With the recent inauguration of its second campus in the southern region, dedicated to built environment and spatial sciences and computing studies, the Allied Health Sciences faculty and the ongoing construction of the first eco-friendly, ultra-modern university hospital, KDU is going beyond borders to facilitate growth prospects among students across the globe. university maintains world-class standards to groom and educate its graduates through military and academic training simultaneously to meet the modern-day challenges, and have yielded successful results by producing outstanding students in various sectors to serve the nation. The university provides undergraduate degrees in the fields of defense and strategic studies, medicine, allied sciences, law, engineering, management, social sciences, and humanities. The university offers students with state-of-the-art infrastructure facilities such as a modern, fully-fledged clinical skill lab to aid students following medicine, a robotics lab, access to 24-hour research, and free Wi-Fi facilities, catering to the growing needs of the 21st century.
Doing research is not an easy task, but I'm not afraid because we are blessed with a well-qualified academic staff, and also we are equipped with these lab facilities which is operated 24/7. So I'm very glad to be a part of this university.
Systematic innovation within the university.
Faculty members of our university help us immensely and contribute to make our personality and the confidence in a very impressive manner to do our research tasks very well.
Through the following, we can identify that KDU focuses more on systemic innovation. Additionally, some general aspects of innovation processes are also being considered in the undergraduate and postgraduate courses such as Masters, MPhils, and PhDs. The KDU academic module has identified that the benefits of integral systemic thinking in systemic change is related to the benefits of fine-tuning. However, the existence, past experiences, and the impact of these economic and social benefits has stimulated the interest to develop new systemic innovation culture in the university's subculture. KDU is also notably the only university in Sri Lanka which offers BSc degrees in mechatronics engineering, aeronautical engineering, marine engineering, aircraft maintenance, and biomedical engineering. The KDU Aeronautical Engineering Laboratory is equipped with a wind tunnel, the first of its kind in Sri Lanka and among a few in universities in the region. KDU has confirmed all its degree programs to a credit-based course unit system and a GPA evaluation system in compliance with the requirements of the Quality Assurance and Accreditation Council. Degrees offered by KDU are globally recognized and also endorsed by the University Grants Commission of Sri Lanka. KDU is a member of the Association of Commonwealth Universities in the United Kingdom and is also a member of the International University Association, USA.
Every Wednesday, we have the opportunity where our professors themselves teach us social dancing. So we get to learn jazz, jive, cha-cha, you name it, we learn it. It's so much fun here.
Why not? We had
July Ball,
and
sports meet, parents day. So here in KDU, we can do a lot of extracurricular activities.
Apart from academic activities, undergraduates engage in sporting and club activities ranging from music to archery to sharpen their talents and soft skills, thus fine-tuning themselves to effectively meet modern-day criteria necessitated by the relevant sectors.
A good university is not just one which helps you study and study and study, but you should add spices to your life. So KDU helps you at it. It encourages you to join them. It encourages extracurricular activities. It actually gives you academic credits if you perform well in your extracurricular activities.
KDU is hailed among other universities for its unique mission in ensuring that all students actively nourish themselves not only in the field of education but inculcate discipline and other essential personal enhancement factors which are the most vital components in defining one's ability to climb the ladder of success.
Inside KDU, we are always addressed as ladies and gentlemen. So they are telling like we are addressed by ladies and gentlemen because they are trying to prepare us to be a lady and to be a proper gentleman in the future.
Values of such nature engulfed in students are appreciated on a global scale, which is one of KDU's primary goals.
We have been given a proper leadership training. There we get the opportunity to understand each other, who our colleagues are going to be, and make good contacts with them.
It wants you to be a good person, a good graduate, a balanced graduate with a good attitude, morals, and everything to be the full person you want to be, you wish to be, the world wants.
KDU, with its enormous portfolio of activities, also focuses on its CSR projects towards society. KDU organizes health camps and blood donation programs on a regular basis.
When talking about me, I like to represent my country one day. That's my dream.
Be a good doctor and serve society, serve my country, serve my people, and do good.
Today, KDU stands as one of the most remarkable universities, focusing on all the growing needs of the era and moving through its array of activities towards a sustainable tomorrow.
The morals, the discipline, the military background, it helps you a lot. It helps you see the path clearly.
General Sir John Kothawala Defence University will follow you to wisdom. My ambition is to serve my motherland, as our motto said, for the motherland forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now witnessing the arrival of the chief guest for today's event, accompanied by the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotelawala Defence University.
The Principal Advisor to His Excellency the President of Sri Lanka, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, the Secretary Defence and Secretary State Ministry of Disaster Management and National Security, General Kamal Gunaratne, WWV, RWP, RSP, USP, NDC, PSC, MPhil, the Chief of Defence Staff and the Commander of the Army, General Shavendra Silva, WWV, RWP, RSP, VSV, USP, NDC, PSC, MPhil, the Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Nishanta Ulugitana, RSP and BA, VSV, USP, NDC, PSC, MPhil, the Director General, Institute for National Security Studies, Professor Rohan Gunaratne, the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotelawala Defence University, Major General Milind Pires, RWP, RSP, VSV, USP, NDC, PSC, MPhil, the Rector, KDU Southern Campus, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Defence and Administration, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, Deans of Faculties, Directors, Senior Professors, distinguished invitees joining us virtually, the Chair of IRC 2021 and his team, authors of papers, undergraduates and postgraduate students. A very good morning to all of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we warmly welcome you to the 14th International Research Conference organized by General Sir John Kotelawala Defence University on the theme Security, stability, and national development in the new normal. This year's conference is being held amidst the realities we are facing due to the pandemic. Just like the theme suggests, we have organized this year's conference whilst adapting to the new normal. As Sri Lanka's only defense university, we at KDU are focusing on the theme security, stability, and national development in the new normal, thereby understanding the need to adapt and operate within the parameters of current realities in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to take a moment to recognize and appreciate everyone joining us virtually from different parts across the world, irrespective of time differences. Even though we are unable to be together physically here at KD Auditorium, Sri Lanka, we are extremely grateful for your presence with us and continued support and confidence you place upon KDU. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all rise as we unite as one voice to pay tribute to our alma mater that motivates and inspires us to serve our motherland forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. At this critical juncture in human history, there are millions of lives being lost and many facing extreme difficulties, both locally and internationally. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now take this time to acknowledge each and every one of them, and also to pay our respects to our fallen war heroes who fought and fell for the belief of a better nation. Thank you. Please be seated. learn to light a candle in the darkest moments of someone's life. Be the light that helps others see. It is what gives life its deepest significance. Ladies and gentlemen, may we kindly ask you to join us in lighting the traditional oil lamp and symbolically dispelling darkness from the lives of those around us, here in Sri Lanka and around the world. To do the honors, I would like to respectfully invite the chief guest, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga. The Secretary Defense, General Kamal Gunaratna. The Commander of the Army, General Shavendra Silva. The Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulagithanna. The Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, Major General Milinda Pires. The Director General, Institute for National Security Studies, Professor Rohan Gunaratna. The Rector, KDU Southern Campus, Major General Prasad Edirisingha. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Defence and Administration, Brigadier Vipula Chandrasiri. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, Professor Sanath Dhammika. The Dean, Faculty of Graduate Studies, Brigadier Upali Rajapaksha. The Dean, Research and Development, Professor Charita Gunasekara. And finally, the Chair of KDU IRC 2021, Dr. Harinder Vidanage. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
A research conference is only made possible by the authors that contribute their research to us and share their findings. We have compiled these key ideas and scientific thoughts that will be deliberated over the next 2 days as an abstract publication. Our dignitaries can access this material via the links given on the site. We ask our distinguished speakers and our presenters to kindly familiarize themselves with the proceedings already made available to you. May we now respectfully ask the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, Major General M.P. Pires, to welcome the distinguished audience that has connected with us virtually.
Keynote speaker, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga. Principal Advisor to His Excellency the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Chancellor General Jerry De Silva, Secretary to the Ministry of Defense General Kamal Gunratne, Secretary to Foreign Ministry Admiral Professor Jayannath Kolambage, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, Your Excellencies, Chairman of the University Grants Commission, Professor Sampath Amartunga, Vice Chancellors of the other universities, Chief of Defense Staff and Commander of the Army, General Shavendra Silva, Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulungitanna, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Prasanna Payo, distinguished plenary speakers, Director General of the Institute of National Security Studies, Sri Lanka, Professor Rohan Gunratne, senior military officers and police officers, Rector Southern Campus, Major General Prasad Edirsinga, Deputy Vice Chancellor Defense and Administration, Brigadier Vipula Chandrasiri, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, Professor Sanath Dhammika, Deans of respective faculties, Directors of KDU centers, Conference Chair Dr. Harinder Vidanage and the members of the organizing committee, academics, administrative staff, distinguished guests, officer cadets, day scholars who are connected with us in the cyberspace. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It is indeed with great pleasure that I deliver the welcome speech address at this inauguration of 14th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kothawala Defence University, held on the timely theme, Security, Stability, National Development, on the timely development in the new normal, at one of the most critical times of our history. To begin with, let me very warmly welcome our chief guest and keynote speaker, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, the principal advisor to His Excellency the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Of course, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga is not at all a stranger to KDU. He is one of the great personalities who clearly understands the role played by the KDU for the betterment of the nation and who has long been assisting us in numerous ways to develop this institution to what is today now. As I remember, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga was the keynote speaker of the 6th Research Conference in 2013. Sir, your keynote on theme, the Sri Lanka as a hub in Asia, the way forward, still reverberate in our minds even after 8 long years. And it is a remarkable coincidence that I welcome you as the Vice Chancellor once again to deliver the keynote address on our current theme, Security, Stability, and National Development in New Normal, which highlights the importance of stability created by the development and security nexus in the context of emerging new threats to national, human, and global security. Sir, we are looking forward to listening to your words of wisdom today as well. It is also remarkable that 8 years ago, you were accompanied by the Secretary of Defense during that time, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who has been destined to be the president of our country today. And today you are accompanied by the present Secretary of Defense and the chairman of our Kothawala Defence University Board of Management, General Kamal Gunratne. And I indeed honored to welcome General Kamal Gunratne to this conference as a very special guest because he has been the tower of strength to KDU at this crucial time of the history. Let me also welcome Chief of Defence Staff, Commander of the Army, General Shavendra Silva, Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulungitanna, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Prasanna Payo, and all distinguished invitees joining this event online, including Chancellor General Jerry De Silva, Secretary to the Foreign Ministry, Chairman UGC, Vice Chancellors, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished plenary speakers of the main session of the Defense and Strategic Studies. Professor Rohan Gunratna, Director General of the Institute of National Security Studies in Sri Lanka, Air Marshal D. Chowdhury, Commandant of National Defense College, India, Vice Admiral Professor Amrullah Octavin, Rector of the Republic of Indonesia Defense University, Professor Roger Kangas, Dean, Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, National Defense University, Washington, D.C., United States of America, Dr. Asma Shakir, Head of the Department of Strategic Studies, National Defense University, Pakistan, Mr. Nitin A. Gokhale, Senior Defense Analyst, Editor-in-Chief, StatNewsGlobal.com, India, Professor Shahab Inam Khan, Professor in International Relations, Jahangirnagar University, Bangladesh. Professors and academics from other universities, senior tri-service and police officers, and national and international participants joining this inaugural session of KDU IRC 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's conference is significant to us at KDU on several accounts. First, 2021 is the year in which we mark the 40th year of KDU's existence in the higher education landscape of Sri Lanka, and we are proud of the role we have been playing therein. Whilst continuously growing in its stature as the national university, doing its call of duty towards the nation with fullest commitment and dedication. Secondly, this year's conference is the one that we hold under most trying circumstances in our history of KDU. Last year too, we conducted our research conference in a hybrid mode due to first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic that took us by surprise. But we hope that we would be able to conduct the 2021 conference freely and in a usual glamour. But this year too, it turned out to be even worse scenario with the third wave of the pandemic hitting us harder. So we consider that this is a more challenging test of our resilience as the nation's defense university. Ladies and gentlemen, we at KDU always believe in the dictum that a quitter never wins and the winner never quits. So we were determined to challenge the challengers, however hard may be. And we ensure the continuity of the conference, adjusting and amending the circumstances while taking the highest precautions against the pandemic situation. We were able to assess the situation realistically and to see the best option for the best interest of our university as well as the nation at large. Therefore, we finally decided that this year's conference would be hybrid, one with major virtual orientation. Ladies and gentlemen, we strive to conduct this conference without postponement because of our belief that we need to set an example for the nation to stand on its feet at times of crisis. We as a nation cannot afford to continue to play the waiting game forever. As our theme highlights, we need to find ways to ensure security and national development in the new normal, adjusting ourselves to the new normal conditions sooner than later. And thirdly, we believe that this is the time in which nation's intellectual community must come forward to engage in serious and meaningful research to help overcome numerous issues and problems that crop up in diverse fields such as national defense and security, economic and management, science, technology, engineering, medicine and healthcare, social sciences and humanities, ICT, law, and so on and so forth. It is the responsibility of a university to create the necessary environment, enabling grounds for important research outcomes which the nation is craving for. Ladies and gentlemen, we are glad that the intellectual community of the entire world has very positively responded to our initiative. Despite some adverse comments and undeserving criticism of KDU and its role in higher education in Sri Lanka from certain quarters in recent times, the large majority of the fair-thinking academics, professionals, and ordinary people are with us fully. And that is evident from the large number of research papers submitted by the researchers from all over the country, representing various higher educational institutions. Despite the differences in adjusting to the online mode, the organizers of the KDU International Research Conference have done their best to maintain the quality of the conference at the highest level. They intend to set the tone to initiate more collaborative research to face the new global challenges. As I always point out, these types of research conferences are ideal platforms for productive networking, both nationally and internationally, for mutual benefit. I hope that authors of research papers of KDU and various other local and international universities will take the opportunity to interact and develop friendly relationships, establish networks, and explore opportunities to embark on productive research collaborations. Finally, I would like to thank both Deputy Vice Chancellors, Chairman of the International Research Conference 2021, Dr. Harinder Vidanage, and the organizing team for arranging this event successfully despite facing numerous challenges during this pandemic situation. While assuring our continued commitment to providing best opportunities for research collaborations nationally and internationally, I wish all the very best for presenters and hope you will enjoy every moment of these deliberations at this academic fusion. Albert Einstein has once said, most people say that it is the intellect which makes the great scientist. They are wrong. It is the character. So I conclude wishing that KDU Research Conference would help to produce great scientists with character. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have now arrived at the most awaited item of this morning's inaugural session, and that is the speech by the chief guest. So without further ado, let me humbly invite the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, Professor Sanath Dhammika, to introduce our chief guest for today's session, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga.
Good morning, everybody. Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, Principal Advisor to His Excellency President of Sri Lanka, Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, Major General Kamal Gunaratne, Chief of Defense Staff and Commander of the Army, General Savendra Silva, Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Nisantha Ulugetane, and Air Vice Marshal Prasanna Payo, Director, Institute of National Security Studies, Professor Rohan Gunaratne, Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Defense and Administration, Rector of the Southern Campus, Senior Professors, Deans, Directors and other esteemed guests and my colleagues. Actually, it is a great honor for me to make the introductory notes on our chief guest, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, at this KDU IRC 2021. Mr. Lalit Veeratunga currently holds the position of Principal Advisor to His Excellency, President of Sri Lanka. He was the Secretary to the President of Sri Lanka from November 2005 to November 2015. He entered Sri Lankan Administrative Service in January 1977 and has served in number of positions as a public service and administrative officer in various institutions. If I mention few, he was an additional secretary to the Ministry of Education and Higher Education, Director General of the Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission of Sri Lanka, Vice Chairman of the National Apprenticeship Board. He had also been the Chief Technical Advisor, Vocational Training Specialist in the Regional Office of International Labour Organization for Asia and Pacific region in Thailand. Further, he had worked as a consultant to the United Nations Development Programme for the government of Maldives. Throughout his career, he has served in many task forces, committees, governing councils of universities, board of directors of public corporation and statutory boards. Mr. Veeratunga currently holds the position as a member of the Board of Management of Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Sri Jayawardenepura. Additionally, he is a member of the Governing Council of Sri Lanka Technology Campus. He chaired the committee overseeing the implementation of the National Plan for Implementation (LLRC) recommendation. As well, the President Task Force for Trilingual Sri Lanka, the President Task Force for National Productivity, and the National Administrative Reform Council, and Steering Committee on Knowledge Hub Initiatives, and National Steering Committee on Nutrition. Mr. Veeratunga received his primary education from Rahula College, Mathura, and then he moved to Royal College, Colombo for his secondary education. He holds the Master of Business Administration degree from University of Colombo and Bachelor in Natural Sciences from the same university. Later, he attended Pennsylvania State University of USA for his postgraduate studies. Actually, he is a member of the Hubert H. Humphrey Fellowship for the Pennsylvania University. Mr. Veeratunga, having vast experience in administrative services, bears an esteemed recognition among the intellectual in the sphere of administration service of Sri Lanka. Sir, it's a great honor for us to have you here as the chief guest. Thank you.
Ayubovan, may you be well all the time in this difficult period. Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, General Kamal Gunratna, Chief of Defense Staff and Commander of the Navy, General Shavendra Silva, Commander of the Army, Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Nishant Ulugatanna, Chief of Staff of the Sri Lanka Air Force, Vice Chancellor of the KDU Major General Mirinda Pires, distinguished academics, far too numerous to mention, honored guests, and of course the distinguished participants joining online, once again far too numerous to mention, but I would certainly mention the Chancellor of the KDU, General Jerry Silva. Friends, of course it's a great delight to be here. I'm no stranger to this place, as the Vice Chancellor mentioned, and I'm also a well-wisher of this great institution, because you have set such a high standard among the universities in this country. No wonder you attract so much of criticism. There is a saying in our villages, our rural ethos is so rich in such sayings. It is the mango tree which bears the sweetest fruit that always attracts the attacks from young people or whatever. Singaleng api kiyana rasa ambagahata tamai gal gahanne. So you have created such a beautiful institution. No wonder people would want to criticize you. So it's a great honor to be here. The entire world is undergoing a massive reorganization with the COVID-19 pandemic. And the traditional themes and arguments in security seems rather irrelevant in the present context. Security, stability, national development in the new normal is a timely theme, giving us much food for thought in terms of the advancement of a country like Sri Lanka. Let me take each component and say a few words of each. If you take the first component, security, the bottom line of security is survival. Comes to my mind Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which was propounded as early as the 1940s. Yet it's very timely and it's very relevant today. Survival is based on a number of factors. Barry Buzan, the veteran in international security, rejected the practice of restricting security to just one sector and defined it as a particular type of politics applicable to a wide range of issues. This comes from his book, Security, A New Framework for Analysis, written in 1997. As eminent representatives of the security sector, I'm speaking to a galaxy of stars, those who fought for the country, those who defended all of us. We are here today because of you, and I have always that gratitude to you, which will never go out of our lives. I'm talking to such people here today. You are aware that the concept of security can somewhat vary from one country to another. We are seeing so many examples. When Mexico's major national security threat has remained to be organized crime for quite some time, our neighbor, Afghanistan's, has been religious extremism. For a country like Somalia, it is the inbuilt corruption into their governance. For some countries, it might change abruptly. A few days ago, we all saw corruption and mismanagement, which was the major security threat of the African nation Guinea, getting substituted by another, an armed unrest. In spite of these differences, almost all countries in the world have developed a commonality during the past year where the health insecurity assumed a major role over and above all others. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused the entire world to assume a new normal, a new word that has been coined in the past, recent past, to fight this common insecurity that is caused by a tiny, microscopic, invisible virus. Even during the new normal, however, certain fundamental features of the modern day security have not changed. Security in the 21st century was, to a great extent, focused on internal factors of a country rather than external ones. The organization of the threat factor has changed from state militaries to terrorist organizations and even to pirates. The underlying motivation for creating insecurities has shifted from being political to one that is economic. Targets have shifted from soldiers to civilians. The distinction between high profiles of national security and low profiles of economic and social interactions have softened. This has given rise to new sources of global insecurity in the 21st century, which are essentially soft in nature. The 21st century has continued to witness these new sources throughout its first 2 decades. Donald Rumsfeld, the one-time Defense Secretary of the United States, said at a key decision-making point in the history of his country, let me quote, "There are known knowns, the things we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, unquote. So this is something that we need to keep in mind. Although stated in relation to a completely different scenario, when recalling this statement, I see that it resonates with the pandemic that we are facing now. In security terms, COVID-19 is a wild card. Those who deal with computers, those who deal with IT, this is a very common thing. And sometimes now in reality shows also we have wild cards, interesting term. An unknown unknown. Wild card is an unknown unknown. It's a security threat without a passport. It caused the health security to assume the prime position in the security landscape of the modern day, surpassing the food security, water security, and all other soft securities. When we weave the modern day threats, we see that none of these is of a purely military nature, as those perhaps were during the Cold War period. As a result, they also cannot be tackled by purely military means. There is another factor that contributes to the restriction of military means as a response to insecurities. In today's security landscape, states do not have the monopoly that they used to enjoy. Human beings have assumed that role. When the individual is considered as a central point in security rather than the state as before, it gives a new insight into all our security-related concerns. This helps us to understand the present-day global vulnerabilities with a new eye. When the center of focus in security becomes the individual, it changes the state-centric understanding of national, regional, as well as global security. It completely shifts. The focus shifts from a state-oriented national security to a human-centric or maybe a person-centric security. When a pandemic which cannot be controlled by military means, I wish we could, because we are the only country in the world which defeated terrorism. And here are some of the stalwarts who did that. I wish we could do that, but it is beyond militaries. So it's a thing which is plaguing the world. The human-centric understanding of security becomes vital to address it in order to ensure development of any country, and we are not out of that context. This is why the soft component of security or the human security gains more prominence over the hard component of security during this new normal, created by the worst health pandemic in the recent history of the world. The pandemic has given rise to a number of human security threats. To mention a few, the threat to economic security through unemployment, we have seen it. To health security through the deadly infectious virus, and to environmental security through the mass accumulation of the waste generated in the health sector. None of us could even, imagine the amount of waste that would be created through the treatment of patients, I was just thinking, when we started talking about vaccination, where would all these syringes go? 21 million people, if they are vaccinated twice, 42 million syringes. Oh God, where do we dispose of these things? These are things that we need to be thinking about. It has also given a signal on food security as well, which is precisely when the government declared essential services and appointed an authority to manage the situation in Sri Lanka. This is not new. We have had competent authorities way back in 1983 when the whole issue of terrorism started blossoming out. We had competent authorities to manage essential services. So these are not new things, but it shouldn't be misinterpreted. So you see, security in the new normal is connected with the stability of a country, but in a different way from how we did with conventional security under the normal conditions. I want to say a few things about national development in the new normal, because this is what all of us are worried about. The national development, as we all know, is an all-encompassing term. It includes both the individual and the nation. Therefore, national development can be considered as the process of development and reconstruction of all dimensions of the nation, along with the development of the individual. Development of the individual is crucial. It's a key. This concept is essentially linked with both the growth and change, where change can be socio-cultural or economic, tangible or intangible. National development involves activities through a planned national economy, application of modern technology in agriculture to enhance production, application of science and technology in the production sector, improving the human resource, and providing education for all, among many others. During a disaster such as the COVID pandemic, it also includes providing facilities and assistance to the poorest segments of the society. In theory, addressing the security needs, especially those of soft security, and implementing broad array of the previously mentioned key activities in national development ensures the stability of the country during the new normal. This theory is in practice in Sri Lanka today, in different sectors to different degrees. Let us consider the vaccination drive, for example. 2 months ago, Sri Lanka was struggling with the inadequate human resource in the civilian component of the health sector to conduct the vaccination program at its full length. Health sector employees were getting exhausted with the enhancing demand for services. At this point, the government employed its military health professionals. Thank you so much. The Commander of the Army, Commander of the Navy, and of course the Commander of the Air Force, Secretary to the Ministry of Defense. Your support was crucial in making the vaccination drive so, I would say, so brilliant, to the point that we are probably one of the best in the world for many weeks. The largest number of people being vaccinated. A small country, a country that does not produce vaccines, but the deployment of vaccination has been so exemplary. That accelerated our vaccination drive to such an extent that Sri Lanka became the first country in the world to have the fastest vaccination drive to its population. This measure addresses our health security and at the same time contributes to our national development by making the workforce resistant to the pandemic. This is crucial. Together, the two outcomes contribute to enhancing the stability of the country during this new normal. At times, I have been wondering, the vaccination drive is something that we could be proud of, but at times I was wondering with your Commander-in-Chief, His Excellency the President of this country, at times he was almost like a vaccination planner, to the point that every moment, every day, every instance was monitored. That is a great success to be involved at that level, because this is something that was new to us. This is something that we need to overcome as fast as possible so that the country becomes a healthy venue for tourists and so many other things. Well, now let us consider a few of the numerous initiatives that the government has introduced to ensure food security, which is again a crucial component of national security. The government recently decided to take a transition from inorganic agriculture to organic agriculture. This has been something that has been in the air for years. If you go back to TV clips where people cry and say, look, because of fertilizer, chemical fertilizer, there have been so many deaths, so many kidney patients and whatnot. So His Excellency the President's vistas of prosperity which he presented to the country included, and I remember this so well because when I read it at that time in maybe August or September 2019 when this was presented to the country, to me it was such a delight to see, look, someone is taking this hard decision. It's a very hard decision, no doubt, to turn the country's agriculture into an organic system. The primary aim was to safeguard the public, no doubt, to ensure that diseases including renal diseases, etc. would be eliminated. This also gave an added advantage where the imports of chemical fertilizers, and you know it's a stupendous, huge amount that we spend on chemical fertilizer, became minimal, and that saved a considerable amount of money to our treasury. This also resulted in enhancing organic and biofertilizer production within the country, opening up new employment avenues. Linked with these two activities, the government also launched the Vari Saubhagya, a program to rehabilitate over 1,000 small tanks across the country. Here too the armed forces are involved to the point that people have been asking, please hand it over to the army or to the armed forces. This was to provide water for both irrigation and drinking purposes. These projects ensured irrigation water to a greater area of paddy and other field crop cultivation, and also created additional employment opportunities within the country. National development not only involves the infrastructure development, but also the human development. A developed human resource is a shield against certain soft threats. The program Connect Sri Lanka was launched during the new normal, initially providing 4 remote areas with 4G connectivity. We are planning to expand it into all 9 provinces. The pandemic period where schools had to be closed is very unfortunate, but yet for the safety of the children, this had to be done. That time was also used to plan education reforms aiming at producing future generations that are better equipped with battling their way through ever-changing global order. These enhance opportunities for the public, especially the children, to gain access to knowledge that is amply available to children and citizens of many developed countries, and also to equip themselves better to assist with development initiatives of the government. Fruits of this labor will be reaped only in the future, where our country will continue to have a learned, open-minded, younger generation, and through them a smarter workforce or even smart workforces. The last example that I wish to draw has a direct connection with all institutions in the public as well as the private sector. Electricity. The government spent over $2.3 billion for oil imports in 2020. This is an unbearable amount for a developing country like Sri Lanka to be spent notwithstanding the prevailing health pandemic. It is also a waste of funds considering the vast and untapped potential that Sri Lanka has for renewable energy. So the government gave due consideration to both these when establishing Thamba Pavani, the first wind power station owned by the government of Sri Lanka. Another similar plant has been launched in Punareen. Use of solar power has been introduced to households. We want to ensure that the renewable energy component is increased to 70% of the total consumption of the country by 2030 of the energy consumption, we need to ensure that 70% come from renewable energy sources. It is an ambitious target, no doubt, but it helps the country to reach a higher status in self-sufficiency and also prepares the country to face worse calamities than the present one that might arise in the future. The failure to prepare, as the old saying goes, is preparation for failure. We intend to avoid it. This applies to all our sectors. Moving back to the concept of security with these examples, with special emphasis on human security, it is evident that the national development and security are interlinked. These cannot be achieved separately. This is probably what caused the formerly known definition of security, freedom from fear, to be redefined as freedom from want, indicating the link between security and development. Human security, as we all know, is an integral part of state security, which in turn has an equally strong connection with national development. This is why, if you have a closer look at Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, you will see that all 17 goals are connected to human security at the end of it. In this context, I believe there is something vital that we all need to understand about security, development, and the stability that those bring about. The new normal caused by the COVID-19 pandemic is calling us, and especially distinguished academics of your caliber, to rethink our actions, plans, and concepts on security and development together both. Is it not high time for us to rethink our national security and national development? We have Secretary Defense here. We need to be looking at some other areas we have not been hitherto looking at, because those are obvious. But today, in the new normal, these have become part and parcel of national security, to the point that Ministry of Defense to me is like a Ministry of National Development as well, because it's so encompassing. Is it not the best time for us to redefine our development security nexus? We do. Let me conclude by bringing back to your memory extracts from a famous speech delivered by Robert F. Kennedy during his run for the Democratic nomination for the presidency of the United States. Of course, he was assassinated. He could not be, but this is what he said. Over 50 years later, his remarks about the measurements of development resonate with something that we need to rediscover with experience we had during this new normal. He said, and I quote, "The gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry or the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile," unquote. So this is GDP. So we need to be a GNP. We need to be thinking about this. Distinguished scholars, ladies and gentlemen, and the very distinguished members of the Board of Management, let us try to fathom the lesson that this global pandemic and the new normal is trying to teach us. It is beyond human imagination. It is trying to teach us many, many things. Let us acknowledge the all-encompassing nature of national development and pay attention to the vital fact that has evaded our comprehension thus far. The fact that the individual, the human, has assumed the central focus in security as well as in national development. Let us use that understanding to redefine our development security nexus and bring a lasting stability to our country during the new normal. Stay safe and take care of yourselves. Thank you very much.
Sir, may we ask you to remain on stage, please? Thank you, sir, for those inspiring words. You have aptly detailed the nexus between the security, stability, and national development in the third decade of 21st century to our distinguished audience. I humbly call upon the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kothulawala Defence University, Major General Milind Piris, accompanied by the Adjutant of KDU, Lieutenant Colonel Dhammika Adhikari, to present the token of appreciation to our esteemed Chief Guest, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, now we move on to the next item on our agenda. That is the speech by the Secretary Defense, General Kamal Gunaratne. I would like to respectfully call upon Brigadier Vipula Chandra Siri, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Defense and Administration, to introduce our guest speaker for today's session.
Honorable Chief Guest of International Research Conference 2021, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, General Kamal Gunaratne, Secretary, Ministry of Defense, and Secretary, State Ministry of National Security and Disaster Management, Chief of Defense Staff and Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, Chief of Staff of Sri Lanka Air Force, Vice Chancellor of Kothulawala Defence University, all distinguished invitees, guests, ladies and gentlemen. With your kind permission, let me to introduce our next guest speaker to all who are present physically and online. Having completed the education from Dharmapal Vidyalaya Pannipitiya and Ananda College, Colombo, young dynamic Kamal Gunaratne joined Sri Lanka Army as an officer cadet in August 1981. On successful completion of the basic military training and the commando course, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant to the Rajarat Rifles in December 1982 and subsequently posted to newly formed Gajwa Regiment in October 1983. In 1987, he took part in the Vadamarachi operation to rescue Jaffna Peninsula from the LTT. He was the officer commanding of the Mankulam Army Camp when it came under intense LTT attacks in November 1990. He was promoted to the rank of Major and appointed as the second in command of the 6th Battalion of Gajwa Regiment. General Kamal Gunaratne was the commanding officer of Silautri Army Camp in Mana, which came under siege by the LTT in March 1991, but was able to successfully hold onto the camp, repulsing many attempts by the LTT to overrun the camp for several days, thus imparting many losses to the LTT. In 1994, having been promoted to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, he took over as the commanding officer of the 6th Gajwa Regiment on 16th May at Kites Island. Then the battalion moved to Palali in October 1995 and actively took part in the entire campaign of Operation Rivirasa to complete liberation of Jaffna Peninsula from the clutches of the LTT. He has held many high command appointments in the Sri Lanka Army, mainly Commander Yamwal Brigade, General Officer commanding 5.5 and 5.3 divisions, and also the Colonel of the Regiment of Special Forces, Gajaba Regiment, and Mechanized Infantry Regiment. As one of the key divisional commander during the final stage of humanitarian operation, he ensured the great victory on 19th May 2009. Subsequently was promoted to the rank of 2-star general while serving as the Security Forces Commander 1E. He also served as a directing staff at the Army Command and Staff College, which is considered as a very high privilege as an instructor in any officer's military career. General Kamal Gunaratne was decorated with 3 gallantry medals, namely Veera Vikram Bhushanaya, Rana Vikram Padakkama, Ranashura Padakkama, and also recipient of Uttama Seva Padakkama, Deshaputra Sammaniya, 6 campaign medals and 3 service medals. General Gunratne had undergone various training courses in both local and foreign countries. Further, he has attended many conferences and workshops overseas. As a diplomat, he served as a deputy ambassador in Brazil from 2012 to 2015. He did his MPhil at the University of Madras and also obtained Masters in Art and Science of Warfare from the University of Balochistan. Soon, his retirement from the Sri Lanka Army on 6 September 2016, he published his first book named Ranamagose Nandikadal, or Road to Nandikadal, the English version, which is the story about defeating of the LTT. Despite his busy life, he published 5 more books, namely Kadolattu, Uttaradevi, Gotabaya English version, and Pathalayo, up to now, and expected a new release in time to come. General Kamal Gunratne, having distinguished military career over 35 years and holding many key appointments in all areas of defense, diplomatic, civil military coordination, and private sector, assumed duties as the Secretary, Ministry of Defense on 20th November 2019. With that, let me now kindly invite General Kamal Gunratne, the Secretary, Ministry of Defense, and Secretary, State Ministry of National Security and Disaster Management, to address the audience at International Research Conference 2021 of General Sir John Kotalawala, Defense University. Sir, over to you.
Chief guest and the keynote speaker of the 14th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kotalawala Defense University, Principal Advisor to the President, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, Foreign Secretary Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolambage, Chancellor of KDU General Jerry D. Silva, retired, Chief of Defense Staff and Commander of the Army, General Shavendra Silva, Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulugetanna, Chairman of the University Grant Commission, Professor Sampath Amaratunga, Vice Chancellors of other universities, Vice Chancellor of KDU, Major General Milinda Piris, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Prasanna Payo, Director General of the Institute of National Security Studies, Professor Rohan Gunratne, Deputy Vice Chancellors, all Deans and Directors, former Chancellors, Vice Chancellors, and Commandants of KDU, eminent scholars, senior officers of the Armed Forces and Police, distinguished guests joining us virtually from Sri Lanka and overseas, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I consider it as a great pleasure and a privilege to be present here today at the inauguration ceremony of General Sir John Kotalawala Defense University's International Research Conference, which is taking place for the 14th consecutive year, and I would like to thank the Vice Chancellor and the conference organizers for the invitation extended for me to be present here to participate in this event. The International Research Conference of KDU is providing the opportunity for academics, professionals, researchers, and practitioners to share their research findings and expertise addressing mutual challenges in their fields. Therefore, this event has gained a tremendous recognition among all interested parties around the world. Further, the provision of a wider interaction and networking with national and international scholars in respective fields would be absolutely beneficial for all the participants to broaden their horizons of knowledge through intellectual discussions. However, due to the global pandemic situation in effect, most of the participants may join the event through a virtual platform for this conference as same as the last year. Yet, I am sure we will be able to achieve the desired end state amidst this pandemic situation. Furthermore, I am extremely pleased that the theme selected by the KDU for the conference this year, Security, Stability and National Development in the New Normal, is a timely theme capable of augmenting the significance and focus of a subject of strategic national importance. Further to that, I firmly believe that the endeavor towards warranting the national development and ensuring national security becomes further from achievement by undermining the routine activities due to the ill effects of the pandemic, but becomes attainable by enabling the adaptability to the new normal, as widely accepted by all the countries in the world today, which is certainly implied by theme that you all have selected. In fact, as comprehensively illustrated by the keynote speaker, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, it is quite imperative for all of us to understand and pursue the ways and means of adapting to the circumstances embedded within the new normal in order to coexist with the COVID-19, a pandemic which has not shown any date of expiry as of yet. Ladies and gentlemen, in the context of globalization and further economic integration in recent decades, the relationship between the national development and national security of a country has become increasingly interlinked. For Sri Lanka, these connections represent both opportunities and potential threats for the country's national security. The open and interconnected nature of the Sri Lankan economy creates vulnerabilities from potential internal and external threats. At this backdrop, the national development has emerged as an important strategic priority for the Sri Lankan government, with a connection between development and national security, which will be orchestrated upon the vistas of prosperity and splendor. The national policy framework of our government, headed by His Excellency, the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Ladies and gentlemen, the development is generally dependent upon the stability of a country, which should be achieved by ensuring national security. Sri Lanka, being a country endangered by the ruthless terrorism for almost 3 decades, has experienced lots of hardships during the past and was in the verge of eyeing towards its development in the last decade. Even though we were able to relieve the country from the menace of terrorism, we have found another security threat in the form of a pandemic, which has posed a greater threat to the entire world. The threat that we face today is progressing in its second continuous year without of any indication of a possible termination. We are yet to find a permanent solution for the same. However, we must always work towards reaching our development goals without letting our country at peril. In such a context, our endeavor here as Sri Lankans should be to seek possibilities to find ways and means to steer the country towards the national development goals amidst said difficulties. Sri Lankan government is at the threshold of trying all possible methods to meet its economic goals and objectives, yet with lots of impediments whilst ensuring the human security. When the domestic affairs of a country are affected, it is extremely difficult for a country to reach its desired end states. Sri Lanka is no exception in this regard. Being a developing country, Sri Lanka cannot accept any economic standstills for a protracted time frame. However, any plans to expedite the economic gains should never be at the expense of human lives. Therefore, His Excellency the President himself has expressed his keenness on this aspect to see and inspire all possibilities available to ensure the maintenance of momentum in the economic sphere. In contrary, we should also not forget the other contemporary security concerns such as violent extremism, terrorism, piracy, drug and human trafficking, smuggling, cyber crimes, and other organized crimes and natural disasters that pose a grave threat towards the stability of a country. Sri Lanka's geostrategic location is susceptible for such threats as it is located in the main sea routes in the Indian Ocean. The same geopolitical significance has given a greater recognition to the country, thus have gained a demand from the rest of the world. In such a stance, the possibility of Sri Lanka becoming susceptible for threats posed from violent extremism and organized crimes are very high. As at present, the government has initiated a number of steps to curtail such illegal activities, and such measures taken such as demarcation of maximum security prisons concept and highly effective maritime domination programs launched by the Sri Lankan Navy, which have become very effective in restricting such threats. However, the effects of such activities itself possess a moderate level threat to the stability of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, a government alone cannot afford to face all these threats that are in concert ruining the stability of a country. Therefore, as responsible citizens, it is our bounden duty to provide novel ideas, suggestions and proposals to consider in regaining our country's stability and development. I hope the academic events of this nature will undoubtedly serve this national requirement. Such efforts arranged to address emerging challenges, promoting more research and development becomes a task of topmost priority for all of us. Fortunately, as the Secretary of Defense, I feel tremendously proud and content to state that the KDU is at the forefront of researching the development and security-related problems in the new normal. The approach adopted by the Kotalawala Defense University to understand the contemporary complex situations concerning on the bigger picture rather than dwelling on the narrow passages will become far more effective in resolving emerging complexity of future challenges. Therefore, I am well certain that faculties of General Sir John Kotalawala Defense University, with their interest, commitment, dedication and knowledge in diverse academic disciplines and outside researchers' inputs, would contribute immensely to this year's research conference's theme. The knowledge that you are going to unearth and share during this conference would be of immense benefit not only to the academic community but to the entire humankind to make their lives better. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I should express my most sincere appreciation to the Vice Chancellor and the organizers of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University's 14th International Research Conference 2021 for organizing this timely important event amidst the COVID-19 pandemic concerns, and I wish all the very best for the participants on their research work and wish this event be successful in all way imaginable. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience hearing. Thank you.
Sir, may we ask you to remain on stage, please? I would like to call upon the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, Major General Milinda Pires, accompanied by Lieutenant Colonel Dhammika Adhikari, the Adjutant of KDU, to present the token of appreciation to our esteemed guest, General Kamal Gunaratna. Thank you, sir. A handful of papers by seasoned and novice researchers have been selected for the KDU IRC 2021. We would now like to present the tablet devices containing the abstracts and the program of the session to our guests as a symbolic launch of the KDU IRC abstract book for the year 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to mention that we have opted for digital publications given the existing situation in our country. We have now arrived at a very special moment in our program, that is the official acknowledgement of the grant to develop the National Digital Repository Center on Defense Studies, the NDRCDS of KDU. This center will be developed as a donation by Professor Emerita Kusuma Kure in loving memory of her late husband, Mr. Ranjit George Kure. The National Digital Repository Center on Defense Studies will be a state-of-the-art resource center in defense and security research in Sri Lanka. As Sri Lanka's only defense university, we at KDU would like to make this an opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Professor Emerita Kusuma Kure for her noble gesture.
Mr. Ranjit Kure was a respected botanist and an environmentalist both in Sri Lanka and Hawaii. He was a leader in the Sri Lankan community in Hawaii. He extended a hand of friendship to the entire community, especially to the Sri Lankan military student community who studied at the Asia Pacific Center for Security and Strategic Studies, the University of Hawaii, and the East-West Center. He was an invaluable source of information, strength, and support to them. Ranjit and Kusuma had great respect for the military forces of Sri Lanka. By giving this gift to KDU, the couple wants to express their gratitude to these great men and women who protected our motherland and put themselves on the front lines and safeguarded our lives during our country's worst times. Kusuma was appointed Honorary Consul of Sri Lanka in Hawaii by the late Honorable Mr. Lakshman Kadirgamar, Foreign Minister, in March 2000. She had the honor of serving Sri Lanka for 16 years and was an honor to have been elected to be the Vice Dean and Dean of the Consular Corps of Hawaii from 2011 to 2013. She retired as Dean Emerita for the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. In 2017, Kusuma was awarded the Distinguished Public Service Award. It is the highest award that a civilian could receive from the office of the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States of America. The office of the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States highlights that Kusuma, during her long-year tenure as Honorary Consul of Sri Lanka, has rendered service and assistance at a considerable personal sacrifice, motivated by patriotism, good citizenship, and a sense of public responsibility. The award was presented to her by the Commander of the Pacific Command, Admiral Harry Harris, at the Pacific Command Headquarters, Camp Smith, Hawaii. In recognition of her exemplary service, Kusuma was also awarded the Public Service Award by the Consular Corps of Hawaii. She was also fortunate to work with 3 different governors and 3 different commanders-in-chiefs of the Pacific Command, and quite a few commanders of the Army, Navy, and Air Force. He made close contact with the Asia Pacific Center for Security and Strategic Studies. The networking and friendships she had with the above-mentioned prestigious places were invaluable for the progress of Sri Lanka-USA defense relations. Kusuma is one of the most celebrated chefs in Hawaii. She retired as Professor Emerita from the University of Hawaii. The National Digital Repository Center on Defense Studies is expected to be implemented soon as a joint project of the Faculty of Defense and Strategic Studies and the KDU Library. The KDU community extends our sincere thanks to Professor Kusuma Kure for her gratitude shown towards the development of KDU.
General Sir John Kotholaula Defence University has introduced the Research Excellence Award to recognize the academic staff and the students of KDU who have excelled in research. The objective of the attempt is to promote and encourage academia and the students to engage in high-quality research, thereby to strengthen the research profile of KDU to improve its visibility in global arena. Hence, this year, for the first time, KDU called for the applications for Research Excellence Award 2020, based on the research output in the years 2020, 2019, and 2018. According to the minimum criteria for applying for the award, as approved by the KDU Senate and the Board of Management, 5 applications under the student category and 10 applications under the academic staff category were received. These applications were reviewed by an expert panel comprising both internal and external members to select the best 5 students and best 3 academic staff members. After rigorous evaluation of the applications, the following were recommended as the winners for KDU Research Excellence Award 2020 for their significant contribution to research in the years 2020, 2019, and 2018. To present the awards, may I respectfully invite Secretary Defense General Kamal Gunaratne, accompanied by Major General Melinda Peiris, the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotholaula Defense University. Ladies and gentlemen, the winners of KDU Research Excellence Award 2020. Student category: Ms. W.P.H.N. Veerasinghe from Intech 34, Department of Information Technology in Faculty of Computing. Staff category. Dr. FMMT Marikar, the Director, Staff Development Center, KDU. Dr. C.D. Ekanayaka, Senior Lecturer in Obstetrics and Gynecology in Faculty of Medicine. Professor C. L. Gunasekara, Professor in Biochemistry in Faculty of Medicine. Thank you, sir. A conference of this nature entails that many individuals and teams work together behind the success to ensure it becomes a success. We are positive that the 14th International Research Conference would not have been a success if not for the untiring efforts of many such individuals and teams collectively. We now have the pleasure of inviting the Chair of KDUIRC 2021, Dr. H.R. Vidhanage, to deliver the word of thanks.
Good morning. Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, Principal Advisor to His Excellency the President of Sri Lanka, Secretary to Ministry of Defence, General Kamal Gunaratne, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Admiral Professor Jayannath Kolamage, Chief of Defence Staff and the Commander of Sri Lanka Army, General Shavendra Silva, Commander of Sri Lanka Navy, Vice Admiral Nishantha Lugetanna, Chief of Defence Staff, Sri Lanka Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Prasanna Payo, General Jerry De Silva, the Chancellor of KGU, Vice Chancellor Major General Melinda Piris, Deputy Vice Chancellor Defence and Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, Rector of the Southern Campus, Professor Rohan Gunaratne, the Director General of National Institute of Security Studies, senior professors, deans and directors, senior officers representing the Triforces and police, distinguished guests, colleagues and guests and our friends joining online, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. In 2 days, it's going to be 9th of September, 20 years since the 9/11 attacks. But looking back, KDU is celebrating its 40th anniversary since its inception, and the flagship research conference continues, and the continuity is never broken despite the forces of nature, despite challenges coming from material forces. We are continuing. So this is an effort to pay gratitude to each and everyone, individuals who have supported us today. Since 2019 till now, Sri Lanka is facing extreme challenges, from challenges emanating from religious extremism to microbial threats such as the COVID-19 outbreak at its worst now. This has made us believe that long-established realities such as norms, traditions, beliefs are no longer have also their limits. Thus, to face that, we need to adapt, innovate, and outgrow that. So, the 14th International Research Conference of the KDU is based on that premise, the conviction that KDU should be the leading force of defiance, as well as the beacon of hope for everyone. On behalf of the KDU, with this belief, I would first and foremost like to thank our chief guest and keynote speaker of the day, Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, the principal advisor to His Excellency the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in Sri Lanka. Your presence today is a blessing to us as an institution and to the IRC as a process, and your observations made at the keynote enriched us with knowledge and perspective. Your wise words of wisdom will have a bearing on the deliberation of all academic communities within and well beyond this conference. I would also like to thank the Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, General Kamal Gunratne, for his presence, your insights, sir, and for your towering leadership that has seen KDU through in fair weather as well as turbulent ones. I would like to pay the highest appreciation to our visionary leader, Vice Chancellor Major General Milinda Piris, and his belief in maintaining the continuity of this apex academic event. I must then appreciate the critical roles played by the two Deputy Vice Chancellors, Defense and Administration, Brigadier Vipula Chandrasiri, in ensuring that the IRC will take place and by taking the administrative leadership. And then the support and the blessings given by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor K.A.S. Dhammika, whose insights we highly appreciate, along with all the support the deans and the directors have given us. Even at a time when every institution is careful about its purse, our sponsors have stood by us. Let me profoundly thank and appreciate the generosity of our gold sponsors, the Bank of Ceylon, the People's Bank, along with Huawei Sri Lanka, National Lotteries Board, who has been our silver partners. And there are many more who has chipped in and who does not want to be named. So I thank you all for that generosity. I must mention that this year is the first time the Faculty of Defense and Strategic Studies have been tasked with the overall organization of the IRC as well as holds its chair. I must mention with gratitude the hard work of my colleagues in both departments of Defense and Strategic Studies, under the leadership of Colonel Inoj Herat, who is the Dean of the faculty. We all believe the FDSS represents the tip of the sphere of the KDU and bears testament to the perfect convergence of civic-military relations in this institution. Towards the build-up of this conference, there were shutdowns, and the shutdowns became lockdowns, and then they became enforced quarantine curfews. Yet the main committee of the IRC 2021 managed to work tirelessly around the clock. We knew it was for a greater cause, and I must appreciate the gargantuan task that was handled by the Secretary of the IRC. She was my main buffer, Ms. Lihine De Silva, Senior Lecturer of the Law Faculty, and the tremendous work done by the three co-secretaries, Major Anushka Ferdinandez, Ms. Isuri Wantika, and Captain Abita Tukorala. We were all supported by a very dynamic team of faculty coordinators who labored hard each day to make this a reality from their own faculties, and they were endowed with patience working with our main committee. It is with sincere gratitude I appreciate the services of the Dean, FMSH, Mr. Kitsi Amarthunga. He was the president of the editorial committee, and Dr. Faiz Marika, who was his deputy. I also want to mention the prudent actions taken by Lieutenant Commander Bogahavatta, the president of Commander Bogavatta, the President of the Publication Committee. This year's IRC is the most decentralized IRCs out of the 14 we ever had. And the deliberations of this scale is no easy task. To keep this grid alive, the robust contributions made by the Direct IT and his team needs a special word. I would like to thank all committee presidents, committee members, faculty committees, the officer of Bursa, the officers of registrar, the adjutant, the CEO administration, and the staff at Vice Chancellor's office who bore with us, who were very patiently supporting us. As I come to the end of my talk, the new normal pushes us to the limits, yet we managed to overcome because we functioned as a collective. Yet the final work would be incomplete if not, I would not mention the researchers, the presenters who put in the papers, and also the silent heroes in the research work, the reviewers, who does it for us every year. So, to filter the best papers for us. So we have truly embraced the new normal. We have not run away from it, as the Vice Chancellor mentioned in his welcome address. We have actually transcended. Thank you all for accepting and believing in us, and for being present here today. Together we shall prevail, and together we shall overcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the final segment of our agenda, and that is to record the distinguished presence of the invitees who are attending the 14th International Research Conference, both physically and virtually. May we kindly request you to switch your web cameras on for us to take a screenshot and mark your valuable presence with us today.
Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we conclude the inaugural session of the 14th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kothalalu Defence University. Thank you very much, and we warmly welcome you to join us virtually throughout these 2 days as we strive forward